Mr. Taiwan Mission Facility, thì hội mình cũng số người và EU from China for the Vietnam Corporation. Mr. Brian
But I just want to say thank you. You all warm my heart. You are here tonight. Some of you came from the US, from other places, far, near, and just because I invited you to come. And what an honor, and what a deeply touch in my soul, so that I can be here with each and every one of you. You know what? Most of you read my books. I've got only third grade education with a water buffalo girl sit on a water buffalo bed, which is not very far from here at the Marble Mountain, that's where my village is. So I have non-education like most of you here tonight. But what I have is a love. The love is of humankind. The love is for the humanity. The love is the children, and the love of who we are, to be together, to serve, to survive, to be happy, and to have compassion. And that is what I have. I have been working here in Vietnam for last 40 years because of the United States gave me permission to work back in 1986. I first came there in 1988. I traveled with a group of U.S. Vietnam veterans, and that is what I learned. I learned deeply lesson how to heal, how to make love and not war, how to bring two sides together and give each other a hug. We had a big dinner in Wade for the 20 years after the Tet Offensive. And here 22 U.S. Vietnam veterans came with me, and we celebrated Tet with the Vietnamese. At first, everybody would feel a little nervous and scared, but after a couple of beers, after a couple hug and talk, and start to sing, start to cry and laugh, and that is what I learned one thing, that between brothers and sisters, and we've been lost, and now I found the ground here in Vietnam that I can bring those two together and make a difference, and make it so that we can live together as a big family in humankind. So I'm here standing in front of you, Mr. Ambassador. You did a wonderful job to bring U.S. and Vietnam together, and one before you, and another before you. You all did for the last 30 years. We cannot believe it, we're here tonight, because 60 years ago, the American is land right here, the same spot, and that is how it done all us here tonight, because of those days. March 8, 1968. 65, I'm sorry. March 8, 1965, when American first landed here at the same spot that we were staying. Who would know, who would think that 60 years later, the younger generation and many, many happy faces and handsome looking people here together, so that we can able to say, oh, what a wonderful time we share. It's not a happiness, it's not a joy, but history. Each one of us did. This something is so wonderful. Many of our guests here tonight, ambassador from Ukraine. So happy that you're here. I've been to your country and I love you people. Poland, same. Thank you for being here. Many of our guests I want to have our guest board members. Can you please, Global Village Foundation board members, Ron Cover, Kiss Neiman, and Brian, William, and who are one more person? Oh, me. So here we are. I'm sorry we could not have everyone here tonight, but thank you for serving on the board and being here. Brian, you fly all the way from California to be here with us tonight, and Kit, you're all the way from Okinawa to be here with us. And so thank you for serving our board, make it our work hard. Every one of you here tonight can be an ambassador, and I'll tell you later how I be ambassador in my own way. So each of you also can be ambassador in your own way as well. So I'm sorry I did not speak Vietnamese, but I just want to say cảm ơn nhiều lắm. Tại là vì đó là 60 năm về trước thì là Mỹ đã đến nước ta, nhưng mà 60 năm sau này những là các em bây giờ những bữa hôm nay gặp lại đây là một cái hoàn cảnh, một cái đất nước của mình phải chịu phải có những cái việc xảy ra, cho nên như ngày hôm nay hàn gắn vết thương là tất cả chúng ta ngồi chung lại một bàn mà để chia sẻ những tình yêu thương, tất cả những cái quá khứ đã qua thì bây giờ nó tương lai sắp đến. Thì là những cái người lớn tuổi như tôi thì bây giờ cũng đã cầm đất xa trời rồi, thì các em trẻ mồ côi lần lượt lớn lên thế nào đi nữa là cũng đắp tay xây dựng đất nước trong tương lai. Rất là chân thành cảm ơn bữa nay đến đây ạ.
So the reason I want to just speak like this, not behind the podium, is because I think this is a more intimate and special way to address all of you tonight. I don't have a major policy address. I don't have a major speech that I'm going to give you. I'm just going to give you some of my thoughts and feelings on this occasion. And I really can't express more deeply or more sincerely about this occasion than, of course, Layli already has. This is a really momentous time. This year we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the US and Vietnam. This year we are remembering the 50th anniversary of the end of the war. And we're also, as Layli said, commemorating the 60th anniversary of the landing of US Marines here in Da Nang, right over there, Red Beach, March 8th, 1965. So my father, at the time, Captain Roger Napper, was a Marine here in Da Nang. Not 1965, but he was here 1966, 1967. He spent a few months here in Da Nang. Those of you who know, he was at a little base, which is now where the Pulkro Reserve, which is long abandoned, went bankrupt, but that's where he was for a couple months, and then he served on a base north of Hue, PK-17 for you veterans out there who might remember. But yeah, I mean, he spoke often to me. Growing up, he spoke often to me about the war and his experience in the war, and always talked about wanting to come back here, to see this beautiful country at peace, prospering. And 20 years ago, I served here in Vietnam. I served in the embassy in a different role, a more junior role, but nonetheless I was here in Hanoi, and had the chance to welcome my father back. Not once, but 3 times he came back. And initially, and I'm sure the veterans listening to this were here, probably you remember for the first time when you came back, it was with some hesitation, with some trepidation. and he felt the same. He didn't know what to expect. He didn't know what he would experience. But when he came to Vietnam in November 2004, he felt nothing but just warmth and hospitality and welcome from the Vietnamese people. And so I think that was really good for him to be able to do that. It was good for me as his son to be able to do that for my father. And so it's remarkable, you know, in one generation, we went from, you know, some Marine captain fighting here to me standing before you as U.S. ambassador. And I think it speaks a lot to the power of reconciliation. It speaks a lot to the power of two bitter enemies trying to build a bridge between themselves, to promote understanding, to promote healing. And there's nobody who's done this more than First Lady. And so we owe you, Lady, a tremendous debt of gratitude. Thank you. But we owe it as well to individuals like Chuck, Cersei, and Chuck. I mean, you've done as much or more than anybody else as well for this relationship. And so many other individuals, I mean, I hesitate. I mean, Rich and Matt, I mean, you guys really, I mean, done so much on behalf of our two countries' ties. I am just here to, you know, I'm serving as, you know, the pleasure of the American taxpayer. But we have people here tonight in this room who have dedicated their entire lives, or the better part of their lives, to promoting reconciliation. And it's not just Americans, it's Vietnamese. Courageous people in both countries took steps when it wasn't popular in their own countries. You know, individuals, you know, names you'll know in the United States, like John Kerry, John McCain, individuals here in Vietnam, individuals like Lo Wen Za, Wen Chi Bing, Binh Binh, people like that, who took positions that were not popular. Yet, here we are today, okay? 30 years after normalization, 30 years of relations between the United States and Vietnam. You know, the United States is Vietnam's #1 export market. Vietnam is America's 8th largest trading partner. We work together in so many areas: defense, security, health, climate, energy, education, culture, you name it. If it's worth doing, we're doing it with Vietnam. And we're doing it thanks to the efforts of people here tonight, people of goodwill, people of courage. And so I say, not just as the American ambassador, but as an American, thank you. Thank you for what all of you have done on behalf of this relationship. We've got a great 30 years behind us. We're going to have a great 30 years ahead of us. And so I just want to say thank you, Leili, for hosting this. Thank you for everything you do with Village of Hope, Global Village Foundation. You are the bridge, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. Actually, there's nothing left for me to say, thanks to Leili and Ambassador Napper, who have said eloquently what needs to be shared tonight on this occasion. Will say that it is a privilege and a pleasure to be here tonight. Join this group of Leili's friends and to recognize her wonderful contributions to Vietnam, to the relationship between the U.S. and Vietnam over the past nearly half century now. It's a privilege to be here, first, because we're gathered tonight in safety, without any bombs falling around us, without any shooting outside in the streets, without any pain and suffering caused by war and conflict. And we cannot say that about some of our friends throughout the world tonight, and some friends who are here tonight, in fact. It's a very sad state of affairs, and I think for many of us in this room, the situation is more poignant because we have lived through the same kind of situation in one degree or another. It is also an evening of pleasure because in our safe enclave here, we can imagine the ocean outside, sea breezes blowing, and pleasant life that we have after so many years of suffering by the Vietnamese people in a war that never should have happened. The pleasure part of our evening goes back to Lady Hazlett and the delight in recognizing for her what she has done for the people of Vietnam and for the people of America. Lei has been a wonderful friend for many, many years, and she has worked so hard. She's sacrificed so much to bring the U.S. and Vietnam back together, but using very practical mechanisms that everyone can recognize. Orphanages, medical clinics, dental clinics, reading programs, library programs. And in that process, she has reached out to people who otherwise would have been shut off from the remarkable changes that were beginning to occur in Vietnam going back 30 or 40 years. Lei Lee helped to move that process forward by casting a very wide net, bringing together Vietnamese Americans, some of whom were reluctant, veterans who, a lot of us had our own baggage to carry, and Vietnamese citizens living here in the country who also had some reluctance about restoring relations and building new friendships. Lei Lee, through her passion, through her what is the word I'm looking for? Her energy, really. She just pushed that process forward, bringing people together and creating this network. And the result we can see today, friends, all of us in this room and far beyond, working to continue the effort to clean up Vietnam with bombs and mines, as Ambassador Napper mentioned, or other missions that Veterans for Peace and other organizations, friends of ours, work on as well. And we are trying to make Vietnam a safer, better country, and I think we're making progress on that, thanks to everyone's support. But I want to especially thank Lei Lee for her lead in bringing together people who were former enemies. We're no longer enemies now. The United States Embassy and the United States government, with the prodding of Ambassador Napper, who's pushed so many of these efforts forward, has now risen to a higher level than ever in our history in the relationship between the U.S. and Vietnam. That will continue, I'm convinced, despite some interruptions that everyone is aware of, and the U.S. government is in a peculiar situation now with some programs that have been supported very strongly by the U.S. in the past, now being slowed down or blocked for a period of time. But I'm convinced that we will prevail, that the U.S. government will go forward and continuing support to Vietnam. And I think we can all learn from the lesson of Ho Chi Minh, President Ho Chi Minh. I'm not going to have this quote exactly, but I think I remember the gist of it. President Ho Chi Minh said to the Vietnamese people very early after World War II, before the Vietnamese had successfully defeated the French in their colonial war, President Ho Chi Minh said, we may eventually have to face the American government. There may be some troubles, there may be some problems there. But remember that the American people are our friends. And the Vietnamese people have remembered that through thick and thin, through difficulties, through many years of war. And that has carried us forward with people like Lely and with organizations like Veterans for Peace actually taking practical steps to demonstrate that on both sides. So I want to thank everyone, but particularly Lely Hazen, for your leadership, for your inspiration, and for your friendship. And we wish you and all of your programs very best in the future.
I'm honored to be here with everybody here tonight, especially with Leland for allowing me to speak. I was a lowly enlisted man in 1965. Came ashore on this beach, 1965. But not March 9th, it was late September. So I'll talk a wee bit, a little tiny bit about that. It was a long road over here. I came from Camp Lejeune, home on leave, took a direct flight to California. They 19 years old and hadn't been off the East Coast. And visited Disneyland, which was kind of cool. From Disneyland, went up to San Francisco, went to Travis Air Force Base, and took a flight from Travis Air Force Base, and the plane had trouble, so we stayed in Hawaii for a week. So for a 19-year-old kid, it was kind of cool. Got to see Hawaii. When we left Hawaii, we went to Okinawa. And we ended up staying there for a month and a half. And then from Okinawa, took a boat, which was I think it was called the APA Calvert. It was an old troop ship from World War II. It was on its final leg. And we took that boat, and we went through a typhoon, and finally got to Red Beach here. And the Marines had a steak and egg breakfast, and these little mite boats would circle around like World War II. They told to be very careful. We didn't want to slip between the mite boat and the net. We got in the mite boats and went ashore. When we went ashore with our rifles and all set to go, I think the Marines preceded us before us because we were greeted by little children. And as in the Marine Corps, it was hurry up and wait. So we hurried up to get to the beach, and we got to the beach. There was the little children smiling and laughing, sat in the sand, and they would dig in our pockets looking for candy, and people were selling Coca-Colas. It was not much of a war. And I spent a tour of duty as radio operator with artillery. And a lot happened. But still, as a young man, when I left Vietnam, I left unscathed. Not too much happened, but I had a difficult time when I returned home. Nonetheless. And I guess it was in 1967 that I returned here. And this time I was on an airplane. And there was no muss and fuss, didn't stop anywhere, you just took a direct flight here and got out in Da Nang. I was told to get on the next flight to go up to Dong Ha, which is up north. People know, that little north of here. And ended up going to a place called the Rock Pot. That was 2 weeks towards the end of a siege called Han Tien. And there was a lot of activity. Because at the end of the siege of Han Tien, I can recall about 400 people in formation getting Purple Hearts. And the company that I was with, I think it had a capacity of 250 people. It came back from Han Tien with 160. We went to the rock bottom. And at the rock pile, I was assigned 3 different jobs. I was a company radio operator for a while, a battalion radio operator, because I was in the headquarters company. And I served as tactical air control party, monitoring all the helicopter traffic that came through our area, stopping artillery rounds so they could go through and such. And then finally, I was a relay operator in a place called the rock pile, the top. And that's where people would go to be very, very safe, because nobody could get up there. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous up there on the top. You could see the sunrise. Monkeys would play off in the distant hills, and it was beautiful. And I think when I wanted to talk tonight, the first words that came, or thoughts, I wrote to Lee Lay in the middle of the night, because I didn't know what, I haven't spoken like this before. So. I recall the song, What a Wonderful World. In Vietnam, it's an absolute wonderful world for me. It changed my life coming over here. I had joined the Marines at 17, 2 years of high school. And I had a difficult time getting back to the States. The children over here really impressed me. And just seeing the scenery out up north where we were was great. But it was terrible. You saw bodies on the ground. You saw people die. We've seen these pictures. And you can see the pictures, but when you see the blood and the guts, it's really, it affects you. It affected me as a young man. It affected me. I was with one infantry company, and they all had these little tiny hats on their head that they had captured from BC. And I saw a dead body out there, and I wanted to have a hat just like those other bees. And when I went to pick it up, the man's brains fell out. And that affected me. But when I went back to the States, I had a very, very difficult time again. And I went to college. And it didn't work out. And I eventually went back in the Marine Corps for 2 years. I had 2 or 3 years of college. I got my GED. And I went back in the Marine Corps, a base called El Toro, California. And I was there in 1975, and I got my bachelor's degree while I was out there with a bunch of pilots that were doing the same. And at that time, people were coming back from Vietnam. The war had ended in April of '75, and I was there to see people land at El Toro Marine Base, come down the steps of those big aircraft, and dump their gym bags on the table, and resettle. So I kind of was here from 1965 to saw a little bit of the end of the war. And I guess what I wanted to say is I had a job. I got 3 master's degrees, clinical social work. And I met this man, Chuck Searcy, in '99. So I was doing an independent study to find out what post-war issues were. That was my first return trip. I've been back since 1999. And yesterday I came back, how many times I've been back here. I retired about 10 years ago when I took a teaching English as a second language class. Taught English in a school in the winter with my wife up in Way. And after teaching school for 4 months and coming back, little boy said, "Mr. Jeff, I hope you come back for 100 years. And that really touched my heart. And on that first trip, when I went back doing my internship, I wanted to go up to Quezon and see what that looked like. Because that's been the area where I did a lot of my work, where I served. And I met this man in Way that was going to pick me up in an old vehicle. really old rickety man, like a hippie. And I said, "Are you the driver?" And he said, "Yeah." Jumped up from the table and said, "Me BC." And I jumped back. And he said, "Only kidding." We drove out to Quezon. We listened to the Beatles singing Long and Winding Road. And the day before yesterday, I went back to Quezon, just 2 days ago, and I saw the gentleman that runs the museum there. And he gave me a big hug. And I go up there and drink coffee. I don't have to pay any coffee, give it to people. But of course I make a donation. And the gentleman up there that tours the museum out in the country in Quezon said, "I want you to come back next time and stay here in the hotel. I'm going to take you around." And that warmed my heart. And following that, I was on a tour, and we went out to another village. A lady I know has sponsored a school out there. Warner Bean School, 30 minutes from Quezon. And it's right on the Laotian border. People, it's a very rural area. Kids are walking around and barefoot. Now, how do they do that? Because there's all these gravel. We planted flowers, vegetables in the garden. And the kids were so smiling. Little tiny babies. Like, we gave them teddy bears. And they held them close to their hearts. And they put them up close to my face where you could kiss your face. It's just wonderful. I've known Lele, too, for years now. And seen her speak from her heart. So I'm just very, very happy to be able to have the opportunity to speak, because I feel close to Lele. I had 11 grades. Not third, but I had 11 when I came over here. And the words that I got from the people that I have been with for the last week that do the demining operations, we saw the demining operations. From what I understand, they have 12 more weeks to do it. They're under review. But the big takeaway that I got from people up there that as an American foreigner, it's our presence here. More than our money or anything else, our presence, people. So I'm really happy that Lele asked me to talk today. You guys are very, very special. And again, it's a wonderful world, and I think of Louis Armstrong. I see fields where the leaves are green, roses are red. I see people holding hands, saying, "I love you." And that's what I've experienced. Thank you for allowing me.
PEMI, my NPO organization, was established in 46, just after the Second World War. We hope there will be no more war.
Tổ chức Hội Phụ nữ Dân chủ Nhật Bản được thành lập năm 1946, ngay sau chiến tranh thế giới lần thứ 2 kết thúc, với hy vọng kêu gọi đem lại hòa bình cho toàn thế giới.
We would like to talk about the relationship about Miss Reddy and me. Miss Reddy, in 1995, Miss Reddy came to Japan and asked and talked to us to help the Village of Hope, which he has just established.
Cách đây 30 năm, thì cô Lệ Lý đã sang Nhật Bản năm 1995 kêu gọi chúng tôi cùng nhau hỗ trợ để giúp đỡ cho làm như vậy.
we sympathized with Israeli and decided to support the village of hope. It was almost about 30 years ago.
Sau sau nhiều lần bàn bạc thì chúng tôi đã đi đến quyết định và một năm sau chúng tôi đã sang Việt Nam và đến hỗ trợ để làm như vậy.
We have also extended the scholarship to the graduate from the village of Hope. 17 students came to Japan and studied Japanese at the university.
Ngoài chương trình hỗ trợ tới làng hy vọng thì tổ chức chúng tôi còn có chương trình hỗ trợ cho các cháu có một sau khi rời làng hy vọng các chương trình hỗ trợ học cao đẳng đại học thì cho đến bây giờ thì có 17 cháu sang du học và làm việc tại Nhật Bản.
In Japan, the students from the village of Hope sometimes have an event like a Vietnamese restaurant.
Ngoài việc học tại Nhật thì các cháu còn tổ chức các sự kiện như là mở các nhà hàng ở Việt Nam tại Nhật Bản.
They give some money which they got in the event to the village of Hope. For example, it was used for the lessons of the sign language for the deaf children. Tiền thu được từ các làm bán nhà hàng Việt Nam tại Nhật Bản thì các cháu dùng tiền đó để hỗ trợ cho làm như vậy. Ví dụ như là hỗ trợ cho chương trình đào dạy cho các cháu không biết làm như vậy thì ngôn ngữ ký hiệu tại làng. You know, this kind of movement is called pay forward, isn't it?
Cái hành động này chúng ta có thể nói là trả lại không biết, có phải không ạ?
Miss Brady is a wonderful and so energetic woman who has done great works for the children with difficulties.
Thật sự cô Lệ Lý là một người phụ nữ tuyệt vời đã đóng góp rất nhiều cho sự trưởng thành lớn lên của rất nhiều đời khó khăn ở Việt Nam.
I think Israel is planting the seed of the warm heart in the world.
Thiết nghĩ cô Lệ Lý là người đã gieo mầm cho những tình nồng ấm trên toàn thế giới, phải không ạ?
We are very happy to meet the children of the village of Hope and report that their growth for the long time.
Chúng ta thật sự vui và hạnh phúc khi nhìn thấy các em, các cháu nghèo khó khăn mà một ngày trưởng thành hơn.
Many Vietnamese babies were born in Japan because there are so many students studying abroad.
Sau nhiều năm sang Nhật học tập thì hiện nay có 17 cháu đang học tập và sinh sống tại Nhật Bản. Thì tiếp theo đó là thế hệ mới ra đầu, rất nhiều trẻ em được sinh ra 13 tuổi, 5 tuổi.
Now Israeli and us and we are not only a mother but also grandmother from the village of.
Cũng vậy là chúng ta cô Lệ Lý chúng ta không chỉ là những người mẹ mà còn đã trở thành những người bà thật sự là hạnh phúc, phải không ạ?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ambassador, American Ambassador, I heard that you stayed in Japan. Do you? Can you speak English?
英語できますよ。
You can speak English. Japanese.
日本語もできます。
日本語もできます。I'm so happy to hear that. どうぞこれからもよろしくお願いします。Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Dr. Charles F. Kraft. I go by Fritz. But I'm going to give you a little history of the dental program and how it got started. I was a dentist in Alaska with the U.S. Public Health Service when I made my first trip of almost 100 times coming to Vietnam in 1992. I believe I was the first American dentist to come back after the war. I remember renting a taxi in Ho Chi Minh City that was driven by a former South soldier. And I went up Highway 1 all the way to Hanoi. It took me about a month. And I saw firsthand the devastation that the war had had in the villages and the cities, on the educational and healthcare system, and on the people themselves. I had been to many developing countries doing volunteer work before, the Philippines, Thailand, Russia, Nepal, Samoa, but I never saw sorrow like I saw in Vietnam at that time. There was nothing modern, nothing vibrant, no color, no smiles, no hope, just existence day to day. And especially with the children, no joy, no smiles. Conditions were really horrible at that time. When I returned to Alaska, I got Laylee's book, Heaven and Earth, and that helped explain a lot of what I saw on that trip in 1992. And in her book, I learned that she had started a free medical clinic near her hamlet, Kila, named Peace Village. And I told myself I want to come back and volunteer there someday. I actually went back in 1993, and this is before we had email, so I didn't know any connections, but I knew there was an office called East Meets West somewhere in Da Nang. I rented a motorbike and searched for a couple days, and I finally located the office, and inside I met the amazing Mark Conroy, who many of you know. He invited me to join him on one of his humanitarian projects in the village. He was doing water projects, heart projects, emergency relief, and he was just such a humanitarian. He really treated the people with dignity and respect in the villages. And you gotta have to remember, this was at a time before we had a U.S. consulate, before we had an embassy. Mark Conroy pretty much represented Americans at that time, and he was a great representative. He's not here tonight because he's feeling a little bit ill, but otherwise he was a Peace Corps volunteer, and he invited me to go out to his water project, and I asked him to take me to the Village of Hope. And there I met the innocent children and saw that many of them were suffering from dental pain and infections, but there was absolutely no access to care. So I was eager to volunteer and do some work for a few days. So I asked Mark to take me to Peace Village. And I asked if there was any dental clinic or dental equipment at that time, and I was told there was none. I was very disappointed. But Mark looked me in the eye and said, well, we don't have a dental program now, but how would you like to start? And that really changed my thinking, because I had volunteered before but never thought about starting a program. That's a big challenge. So I went back to the Village of Hope, and I learned more about the children, and I got to thinking that the same way we do public health dentistry in Alaska with portable equipment in the rural areas would probably work here in central Vietnam too. So before I left, I promised Mark that I'd be back, although I didn't know how. And when I did get back to Alaska, I talked to a lot of my friends, colleagues, and asked if they thought a dental program in Vietnam was something they would sponsor. And almost everybody offered to help. For 2 years, I gathered up donated dental equipment, instruments, and materials at my home. And in 1995, I approached East Meets West Board in Oakland with a proposal to set up the first American dental charity in Vietnam within Peace Village, and it was accepted. In 1996, I returned with several Alaska volunteers and over $200,000 worth of dental items. And believe it or not, they were airship free by Federal Express. And as you all know, that's run by Fred Smith, a Vietnam veteran. And so he shipped it over for 3 years at no cost. We did locate some Vietnamese dental personnel who were willing to work with Americans, very difficult at that time. We did some training through a translator on safe treatment for patients and proper professional standards. I remember our very first staff, Dr. Tweed, Dr. Vitt, Nurse Troop. I'm sure if you ever met her, you would remember. We partnered initially with the Vietnamese Red Cross, and the project was to follow the principles of international public health and was set up a foundation to create a long-term sustainable program. But most importantly, while it was advised by Americans, it was managed and run by Vietnamese. And they took responsibility and they took over control of the program, and it became their own. The East Meets West Dental program opened in Peace Village in March 1996. Initially, we saw children from the Street Children's Center, SOS Orphanage, the School for the Deaf and Blind, and of course, we took our portable equipment into the Village of Hope, and every year I worked with the school nurse in the pharmacy room to help those children. The program only started with 3 staff, but it grew to over 12 members very quickly. I visited Vietnam several times a year, bringing fellow colleagues from Alaska to volunteer and teach. Over time, the clinic capacity grew larger, and they were able to move into the city, into the Trung Lai School for Disabled in 2000. I moved to Cambodia in that same year to work with the U.S. Embassy, and I was able to travel from Phnom Penh to Da Nang numerous times a year. Ms. Hong Tran was selected as our national program director, and by carefully building relationships with the Vietnam Department of Foreign Affairs and Da Nang Ministry of Health, East Meets West was able to gain permission to travel into the rural villages and start conducting outreach trips with international volunteers and students. These large missions first started in Quang Nam province, but eventually we went all the way from Can Tho in the south up north to Dong Hong, which was mentioned earlier tonight. Over the next 25 years, we performed more than 150 trips that involved coordination with countless international dental universities and nonprofit organizations from England, Hong Kong, Germany, New Zealand, Sweden, Japan, Canada, Scotland, Australia, France, and of course the United States and others. And through the decades, more than 1,500 international volunteers have provided over 175,000 children with modern educational, preventive, and corrective dental services. That care has a value in excess of $30 million. Lei Lee, Mark Conroy, and Dr. Allen from Alaska, and our tremendous local dental staff have always supported this program from the very beginning. I'd like to recognize some Team Alaska members here on table number 9, and they've been coming here for years, ever since the beginning. And Mel Potter, who also is a veteran, he's gone on numerous outreaches, as well as Lei Lee herself has been on dental outreach trips. And I think that's really where our impact is most felt, is in the village situation. Those children may have never seen a dentist. And when we can provide preventive and corrective care services and provide them some education too, it can make a real difference. Luckily in Vietnam, the diet is good, not high in sugar, so the decay rate isn't as high as in some places like Alaska, for instance. So I just want to thank the professional local Vietnamese staff that we worked at over the 3 decades. It's been a real professional honor to work with them side by side to help the Vietnamese people, and my many friends who helped provide these dental services over the years. It was a noble cause, and it was definitely a chance for us to bring back smiles to those disadvantaged children. So we want to thank Lei Lee for having this vision so many years ago, and we're glad that we're still here today, 30 years later, to celebrate with you. Thank you very much.
So Ms. Hien, it used to be my staff at the Peace Village, and she now director of the Agenois Children's for the Children's Center here in Da Nang. So we know each other for that 30 years. But this is for the Women's International Day tomorrow. For all of you women here, là cho chúc là người phụ nữ ngày mai là người phụ nữ quốc tế của Việt Nam. Cho nên cái bình hoa này không phải là của một mình mà chung hết cho tất cả phụ nữ Việt Nam ngày mai nhé.
Thank you, Laylee, for inviting me here today. Thank you, folks from Village of Hope, for joining us on the stage, and thank all of you for coming here tonight. Is the class half empty or half full?
Half full.
Half full. I think that the takeaway from tonight is that when other things are not going well, people-to-people cooperation and initiatives can move forward even when our governments are not joining together as they should. Of course, there's been a lot of progress, and I've heard people say, look how far we have come in the 50 years after the war ended. Look how far we've come since normalization of the relations. But wait a minute. In Europe, it was just 1 year after World War II ended that George Marshall proposed a reconstruction program. And just 2 years after that before it began. And we have seen nothing like that here, though there has been a lot of progress. Ambassador Napper and his predecessors have done their very best to promote reconciliation, and more than that, actual support for programs. And we were finally seeing that with support from the State Department, support that is now in question. But just 2 weeks ago, I had a chance to visit Village of Hope, and I was so incredibly impressed. I've heard about it, I've heard from Laylee. She's been a friend for a number of years. So when she asked me to come here tonight, though I was exhausted from months of work with VTV4 on a documentary that we're making for the 50th anniversary of the end of the war, it will be broadcast on April 28th, 29th. I had to say yes. I saw the dental clinic. I saw maybe at least as modern as my dentist office at home, and it is impressive. On the other hand, just 2 weeks ago from tomorrow, 13 days ago, I heard about two 2-year-old babies who were killed playing with an unexploded bomb. Why? Because it looked like a toy. And I got to meet their families, their parents, their cousins, their grandparents. And it was very, very moving to me. I saw the great things at the Village of Hope, but I also saw that there's a lot more to do to rehabilitate those facilities, to make it the potential that it could be. And so I'm here tonight in my capacity as a member of the board of Village of Hope to say, again, if we are talking about the effectiveness of people-to-people outreach, then I think all of us here have a responsibility not to leave it up to Laylee, but for each of us to act as ambassadors. We all have friends who have resources that we can prevail upon to make donations, to spread the word, and that's what our responsibility is. And though Laylee doesn't know this, just yesterday we wrapped up this filming for the VTV4 documentary. It's largely based on the life experience of a fellow named Craig McNamara, who is the only son of Robert S. McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense during the Kennedy and Johnson administrations, and who is widely considered the architect of the American war in Vietnam. And 2 years ago, he wrote a memoir called Because Our Fathers Lied. And he wrote that because he was in pain ever since the days that the war was active. He was in pain growing up as the son of a war criminal. And I saw the same pain in him that I've seen in many of my friends who were veterans of the war who came back to the United States morally injured from participation in an unjust war. Last night, before he left to go back to his farm in Northern California, he gave me a check for $500 for the Village of Hope. And lately, friends, children, Craig McNamara's wish that he wanted me to convey to the people here, saying he wished he could be here, but his farm in Winters, California requires him to come back. He said, please give this donation and ask the folks in the room if they will match it. Not everybody has the resources to give a $500 contribution. I don't myself, but we can all give what we can give. Some of us can give $500. Some people give a Village of Hope $1,000 or $2,000. In the spirit of Craig McNamara, the son of Robert S. McNamara, a man who has himself transformed into a friend of Vietnam, I urge you to join me, and let's all go out there as ambassadors of the Village of Hope. Thank you.
On behalf of the tonight dinner, and I'm standing right here in front of the United States Ukraine Military officer, and all the veterans and all the Vietnamese. They still call me mom. I have three sons of my own, but they call me mom. And now they get call me grandma. And that is what we're talking about, planting trees. Because one day they're going to take it over and become grandma, and then their children and grandchildren will be our children. And so that is why I want to create this dinner tonight, just so that I can introduce you all this good-looking, happy faces. But each of them has a story to share. Each of them has a story to tell. I cannot tell you how many stories. We can have almost 1,000 children raised at the village. 1,000 stories to tell. That is how we share. Every Vietnamese has a story to tell. So thank you, Ron, for the voice, but I want to take it over and they can, okay? So thank you so very much. By the way, before the night over, I want to keep our volunteer ahead because they're working very, very hard. Everybody keep our volunteer ahead. All very, very hard. Thank you so very much.
Dạ, kính thưa quý vị đã có mặt tại buổi tiệc tối nay. Con xin giới thiệu con tên là Xá, năm nay con 34 tuổi. Và lời đầu tiên con xin gửi lời chào và lời cảm ơn sâu sắc chân thành nhất đến mẹ Lệ Lý, các mẹ học sinh viên và tất cả các nhà hảo tâm đã luôn đồng hành với làng hy vọng, ngôi nhà chung của chúng con ạ.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Sam. I'm 34 years old. And first of all, I would like to send you our best greetings and thank you very much with Mom, Lệ Lý, and Fermin, Foundations, and all the good hearts that helped finish off our common house.
Dạ, suốt những năm qua, nhờ sự hỗ trợ của quý vị đã mang lại nhiều hy vọng và chúng con cũng có cơ hội được thay đổi cuộc sống của mình được tốt hơn. Và con xin chia sẻ một chút về hoàn cảnh của con trước khi vào làng ạ.
For many years, with their support, the whole village has developed a lot and it changed our life better and better. And I would like to take this opportunity to share a little bit about my life.
Dạ, trước khi vào làng thì gia đình con có 5 anh em. Ba con tham gia kháng chiến chống Mỹ và bị thương, bị bắt tù đày và sau khi giải phóng thì ba con bị bệnh nặng qua đời năm 1997.
Before I entered the village, I have 5 brothers and sisters, and my father is a soldier in the American war, and he's wounded, and these were in shells in Kondao, and after for a while he cannot overcome and he died in 1997.
Dạ, một mình mẹ con làm con nuôi 5 anh em và đúng trước cái bờ vực mà 5 anh em chúng con sẽ nghỉ học khi con chưa vào lớp 1 thì rất may mắn thì con đã được các thầy cô ở làng đã đến nhận và nuôi con vào làng hy vọng.
So my mom have to make meals and take care of 5 of us, and I'm very scared that maybe I cannot enter the first grade, but how lucky in 1999 I was adopted by the village of Hove, and to 2009 I finished my 12th grade before I left the village.
Và con vào năm 1999 và con tốt nghiệp lớp 12 năm 2009 và sau lớp 12 thì con học đại học và sư phạm và hiện tại thì con đang là giáo viên tiểu học ở thành phố Đà Nẵng.
After the 12th grade, I continued with my studies with the universities, and so now I'm a teacher for the primary students. So happy.
Dạ, khi vào làng thì cuộc sống của con như đổi sang một trang mới hoàn toàn. Con được đến trường, con có bạn mới. Tuy cuộc sống của con không có tình thương của ba mẹ, nhưng bù vào đó thì con có tình thương của các thầy, các cô, các mẹ đã yêu thương giúp đỡ con để vượt qua những khó khăn để con bước vào đời được tốt hơn.
When I enter the village, it seems like I've got a whole new life. Although I do not have the love from my parents, my brother and sister, but I have new mom, new dad, new brother and sister in the village who take very good care of me.
Dạ, con còn nhớ thì mỗi khi chúng con đi học về đến làng thì chúng con đều mong nhận những món quà từ các nhà hảo tâm mang đến tặng chúng con như những bữa ăn và có khi thì những kinh phí để các thầy cô, các mẹ có thể lo cho chúng con được đến trường, được học chung với bạn.
And every day we thank you very much for the support from all the good hearts, and we continue to wait for another good heart to support us because we need everything from a single meals to the school fees and every daily need.
Dạ, con chắc rằng thì các em tại làng hy vọng bây giờ cũng đang mong chờ sự hỗ trợ đó với những bữa cơm đủ đầy, áo ấm mùa đông và đồ dùng học tập để tiếp tục con đường học vấn của mình.
And I'm sure that all the children recently in the village of Hope, they are continues to wait and hope for the support from all the good hearts because we are still need a good meal and something to wear and studies facilities for our study.
Dạ, những điều bình dị nhưng vô giá đó đối với trẻ em khác thì bình thường, nhưng đối với các em tại làng hy vọng thì đó là một điều rất là lớn lao, là khi mà các được sự giúp đỡ đó thì các em sẽ thay đổi cuộc sống của mình và có một tương lai tốt hơn.
Maybe these things are very normal, very simple to us, to every one of us is, but to our children in the village of all, it's the unmatched values. It's the valuable things to us. It changes our life. It can help us to have a new life.
Dạ, sau khi ra trường và con đi làm thì bằng tấm lòng của mình thì cuối năm học vừa rồi con có vận động phụ huynh học sinh và các em ở trường có quyên góp một ít sách cũ mà còn dùng được và một ít đồ dùng học tập mới để cho các em nhỏ được vào năm học mới.
I myself, when I teach at my school, after each semester, I also asked for the support of all the parents in the school, and luckily we have some support from the parents with old books and usable facilities for studies, and I use that to help other people, other students to continue their study life.
Dạ, vừa rồi thì nhóm của học sinh chúng con đã quyên góp tiền lại cũng một số ít thôi và đã cho các em một bữa ăn tại làng.
And our a group of parents also have a support some money. It's not much, but it's enough for us to provide a good meal for the village of homes later.
Con luôn biết ơn và trân quý những điều đón nhận từ các mẹ, các cô, các chú để dành cho chúng con để chúng con có được ngày hôm nay ạ.
And I really appreciate all of your helps, your good hearts. Thank you.
Dạ, chính vì thế thì con rất mong các nhà hảo tâm, các quý vị sẽ tiếp tục đồng hành, chia sẻ và trao gửi những yêu thương với các em tại làng hy vọng.
And I hope that all of you, all of the good hearts here, will continue to join hands and support all of us and the children, the village of home.
Một lần nữa thì con xin gửi lời biết ơn sâu sắc đến tất cả các nhà hảo tâm, những người đã và đang giúp đỡ chúng con và giúp đỡ các em tại làng hy vọng ạ. Và con xin chúc quý vị và các anh chị, các bạn có trong buổi tiệc ngày hôm nay giàu nhiều sức khỏe và thành công.
And once again, we'd like to send to all of the participants, all of the good hearts here, my most appreciate and thank you very much. With you, a very nice evening's help and good business.
Con xin trân trọng cảm ơn một điều nữa là
Thank you for listening. So I will have to translate into the English with her Vietnamese.
皆様、こんにちは。私はジンと申します。今年は34歳。義母の村で2009年に出場しました。
First of all, I would like to send my greetings to all of our distinguished guests and my appreciation to Mom Lily, family groups, and all of the good hearts that always supports the village of Hope for the last years.
まずはレリ様、フェミ様、各支援者の皆様、ずっと義母の村と支援いただく心より感謝申し上げました。私たちの時代の時は同じ年齢、他の子供たちとくべて親さんの愛情と美しさ十分はしませんか。
Our childhood is not lucky as other friends. We lack of love from our own parents and we lack of facilities. But we're lucky because we have love from all of our teachers and relatives in the village of home, especially Mom Lily and Mom Japanese in feminine group and all the good hearts. And I hope that the village of home will now continue to have support from all of the good hearts.
しかし、義母の村に住むことになる Kibonomura no Okasan Gata, Sensei Gata, CN 3の各ギターがガンサー、フォトがいただきました。今希望の村の子供たちは学校も子供たちがこれからも学校へ続け支援者の皆さんが引き継ぎの支援を続けていくことを企業より願っております。私としてはいつも支援者に感謝しております。以上です。よろしくお願いします。どうもありがとうございます。
I always appreciate any support from all of you, from all of the good hearts. And therefore, I wish all of us here will continue to support the village of Hope, to share the love to the children of the village of Hope.
Thank you very much.
Once again, I would like to thank you very much.
We over time, and so I just don't want to keep you any longer, but I want to invite you to visit Village of Hope if you can. And beside Village of Hope is my home, near to Harbor Mountain. And you can see where I come from, a humble place, it's poor, but it's not making any difference who I am today. These young children, when they came to Village of Hope 30 years ago, just like me, came from very poor village, came from very hard life. But look at them today, always because of you. Each, every one of you make a difference. So there, you're going to be good difference. So I just want to take the opportunity to say again, thank you. Any help you can get, anything that you can share, please do. I just want to show three very special people, and you can see how different their life can be made. And you don't have to go to Village of Hope. You don't have to see the children in the land, but you can anywhere, every street in Vietnam or around the world. You can make a difference. Just sponsor one child, or just take care of one story. And I want to share you three stories here that is just no different from this one. This three gentlemen, where are you? Three, Sam, can you come? Ken, can you come? Nhật, where are you? Nhật. Nhật đâu rồi? Yeah, come, okay. This here, they also call me mom. But different kind of mom. He was born here in the land. He was born here in the land, and his mother American adopted him. But she had no, they cannot have kids. So they asked me, lady, can I adopt one of your kids in the Village of Hope? And at that time, I just said, yeah, how to do it, and help her to come here and adopt him. He not come from the Village of Hope, but she adopted somewhere else, and I become godmom for him. 24 years ago, he come back now to the land, and to just help me because I had the function going on, and so he take 1 month off just to come to help me.
Bravo.
So this kind of help, this kind of just adopt one person or just help raise one child, that can make a difference. So I just want you to see that he looks like Vietnamese, but he's not Vietnamese. So he's so happy to come to Village of Hope to teach English and help them to do many programs there. And just things like that. And Ken, I want to show you Ken. Father and mother come from the land, and I just happen to know him. He's got his hair, So I adopted him at the mall. Very successful businessman in Hollywood. Did so many good things and promote many ways of Vietnamese culture in the United States, in Oxford. If this kid had began to come to America, if these children had began to study overseas, there will be so much helpful for this country. So that is why I would like to show you the difference if you can help to raise one child. But thank you so much. And I have one more, look, I don't know where here. He is one more gentleman, he's very poor. He comes to me and said, I want to be a builder of hope. He's very smart. And I said, no, you're too smart to be in the builder of hope. So I take you and raise you. I keep him home and I help him out. Now we become a very successful businessman, right here. And there, you see? And that is now he can travel all over the world to set up businesses, trade between Vietnam and other countries. And he will come back to help the build the port. We don't know when, we don't know how, but he will do. So this is the difference I want to share with you. You just take one child, any corner of the street, any place in the world, raise it. That is those children that we have right now. So down the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. And I'm grateful, Ambassador, that you are here with us, and all the veterans, and all the friends, and all the volunteers, and everybody. Love and everybody, just thank you. Thank you. You come all the way from the United States. Just the United States. Yes, thank you. Coming to a now upcoming project. There's a new book coming out. And so that is a new book that, where's the new book? There are many programs that in April, the month of April, that I'll be involved with the United States. 4 or 5 big workshops and seminars and talk about the 50 years and report. So this is a book that I put together 40 years of our work here in Vietnam. And there's a lot of photo books and 2 documentaries that are going to come out in here. And all the work that we are doing here is coming. And so I just want to share that anybody can have a book, if it's a gratitude, and then it says thank you by every one of you and all of you who helped us to work here in Vietnam for the last 40 years. So that's enough, okay? That's okay? That's good? Okay. So if you want a book, let's visit now in Hanoi, and that's going to be, we're going to receive it by end of this month. Any one of you would like to have a copy, just write your name so that we can give you a copy before we ship it on to the United States. But you will be surprised, your picture is going to be in there, and then your story is going to be in there. So that is where new one coming. So thank you. Thank you.